If you have ever had the thought, I want to make my dog or cat famous, this is the episode for you. I'm speaking with Ashley, the owner of Petfluencer Secrets, all about her famous cat, Chip the Minx, who has over 486,000 subscribers on YouTube and 122,000 on Instagram. Now, we're not talking all about the cat here. We're talking about how you can make this happen in your own life, how she's created this amazing resource for people to learn how to do this for their own pets. I think this is probably one of the most unique conversations I've had because I always joke like my dog Captain is going to be famous, but I didn't realize that there are people out here teaching you how to do it, which makes so much sense because there's coaches for influencers and there's coaches for pet influencers. Truly amazing. I think this is going to open your eyes to a lot of opportunities in the world of entrepreneurship. So I cannot wait for you to listen. Please go check out Ashley, connect with her. Go check out Chip, of course. Truly iconic. And let me know what you think of this episode. I'm a huge pet lover. So I would love it if you could send me a message at Espresso Podcast Production on Instagram about what you think of this episode. It is so cool. All right, please enjoy. Welcome to the Employee to Boss podcast, a podcast for everyone with an entrepreneurial spirit. Every week, I am joined by successful guests in all different industries and stages of business who will share what their experience was like transitioning from employee to boss. This is a resource for you if you're wanting to start a business, go all in on your side hustle, get to the next level, or just hear what it's like taking the leap to becoming your own boss. I'm your host, Hayleigh Hayhurst, the owner of Espresso Podcast Production, a full-service podcast production agency specializing in editing, marketing, and strategy. Let's dive into today's topic. Hey, Ashley, welcome to the Employee to Boss podcast. I'm hyped for this conversation.
Yeah, thanks, girl, for the opportunity. I'm really excited to be here.
Yes. Okay. The reason I love this is because I meet so many people that are like, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to make my dog / cat famous. Like that's my life plan. And does my dog Captain have an Instagram? 100%. And my sister's like, he needs to be famous. I'm like, I think this is harder than it should be, right? But you have done it and now teach other people how to be pet influencers, which dream job. Okay. Love that.
It's really cool.
Tell us more. Tell us more. And then I want to hear about your journey from employee to boss.
Yeah. So I'll give a very high overview just so everyone kind of knows where I'm at within the influencer space. So I started out as a cat influencer, and I started all that mostly just because I wanted a space to document my cat's life. Before I had kids, of course, I was obsessed with my cat. And I'll go through this story in a little bit, but so I have 2 cats now. Both of them have their own channels. They are their own like 6-figure business, which is so crazy. Get to do everything from brand deals to affiliates and sponsorships and all the stuff we can talk through later. But I have that. That's kind of like one half of my life. And then the other half is being a pet content creator coach. So through my experience for doing this for essentially 7 years now, I have obviously through my not only just experience, but so many of the trials, errors, experimentation, everything. Through that, I've learned so much, and now I get to coach people. So I've been doing that for the past recent few years. I still am doing both being an influencer alongside all my students, but also, again, being an influencer coach. And honestly, I think I'm the only one still yet in our niche who is essentially like the pet content creator coach because our niche is so small. Yeah, that's kind of like the quick overview.
Okay, I love it. Do the cats ever make podcast appearances?
Not really.
So funny.
They really don't. In fact, what I do have, I know, of course, the people who are listening can't really see it, but I actually have plushies of my cat.
Stop it. I love it.
Yeah, I had a plushie campaign back, it was about 1.5 years ago. And so I do have plushies of them, but no, they would be walking all around my computer and everything right now.
Yeah.
It would be distracting.
Yeah. No, I know someone who created an AI podcast where their dogs are talking. Very wild, but who knows? Might be the next big thing. But okay, I am so curious. how did you get to where you are? Like, what
Mhm.
was your journey from employee to boss? Because I assume it probably started with just having a cute cat, being like, "This cat needs to be famous."
Kind of. Okay, yes, I'll take you through the whole story. Um, so it all began when I was in physical therapy school, actually. So I was in graduate school, and where I live at the university, it costs a little bit over $100,000 for that graduate program. And about a year and a half in, 2 years in of this 3-year program, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm already in insane debt from school. I really need to find some sort of way to make some extra money. So, like, to try to do side hustles. So, at the time, it was blogging era, if you know what I mean,
Mhm,
mid
mhm.
2010s. And so I started a blog. It was not related to the pet niche, but I started a blog and I actually made a little bit of money. Like, it was anywhere from, I don't know, like $700 to $1,500 a month. I was like, this is so cool. Like, side hustles are a thing, but at the same time, it was overwhelming, being in grad school, having a side hustle. So I eventually got my cat Chip, one of my 2 cats. And I was like, I want a way to document his life. I'm familiar with social media now because I'm doing this blogging thing. What if I made a channel for him and just see what happens? So I created, at the time, it was nearing the TikTok boom, right? So that was
Mhm.
like 2020. And so I started TikTok for him and Instagram. And I learned very quickly that pets on social media performs really well. And I was very blown away at, him getting at that time 10,000 views. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's famous. Started getting a few gifted products. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm an influencer. I didn't know anything at the time, of course. So I eventually said, oh my gosh, I want to make this a thing. There weren't any resources out there. Like, of course, there were no influencer coaches related to the niche at all. And we'll talk definitely later about how the pet niche is
Mhm.
very different when it comes to other niches like on YouTube and our other socials. But I was like, okay, I need to figure this out. And I want to be a coach for people because I learned that if you know how your target audience and the algorithm works differently for our niche within the pet niche, then this really isn't that hard. Like, I feel like many people can actually do this. So at the time, like, I think maybe I was getting like 60,000, 80,000 followers on TikTok, and I created the other socials. And about 2 years goes by. Of course, I'm starting to do these little paid collaborations. We're talking maybe like $200 a collaboration, which actually for brand collaborations, it's pretty low. But I was like, okay, I want to start teaching people how to do this. So in real life, person to person or like one-on-one,
Mhm.
I had plenty of friends and people who were like, I want to learn how to do this. Like, if you say it's this easy, teach me how to do it. And I realized really fast that it took anywhere around like 6 to 8 hours in total teaching someone how to become an influencer. Like, I mean, there's so much from learning the apps, learning how the social media platforms actually work, learning how to edit and how to film correctly, and all the nuances, all the things. So from there, I decided to create Petfluencer Secrets. So again, that's my like second half. I've got the cat influencer business, then I have Petfluencer Secrets. And that's where I essentially became like the pet content creator coach. So I have a few courses now. I do one-on-one coaching. And through there, over the past few years, it's now grown to the point to where, of course, like I get, like that's my job is being a coach for pet influencers. So yeah,
Oh my god, that's amazing. Just like, sorry, my dog is barking now. He wants to be an influencer. That's what
uh,
he's trying to say.
obviously.
Um, I love that. That is such a cool story. Were you working full time when
Mm.
you started
Yeah, yeah,
this
yeah.
business?
Of course. So obviously that is an important part of the story is this transition from working full time, transitioning to part time, and then transitioning out. So I've been doing this for about 7 years now. And I started that like whole blogging side hustle
Mhm.
experimentation while in school, graduated, and I was like, okay, my goal is to try to obviously pay off that debt
Yeah.
and then see if I can work less because I knew that it was absolutely exhausting trying to run a growing side hustle while working at like a manual job that you're working 10-hour days. It was exhausting. So I told my husband, I said, please just trust me. I want to, I want this to be a thing. You've seen me work hard for the past few years on this, other blogging thing. I was like, I desperately want to go down to part-time. So I was working full-time as a pediatric physical therapist. I was doing that for, trying to think, about 2 years.
Okay.
I went down to part-time, and going down to even 3 days a week because I was receiving at least enough income to justify that, it is a level of rewarding that is incomparable. Like, just knowing that because of what I have created, I am now able to get away from your typical W-2 job.
Yeah.
And then from there, as I started growing, it really was when I was growing Petfluencer Secrets, where I was like, I don't have time for this. I was able to then transition actually to 2 days of working my, what I call the trade job, and then be able to transition out. It, again, it is a crazy, strange feeling to know that I went to 7 years of school and an insane amount of student debt at the time to be able to be a cat influencer. Like, in a completely different, like, I did all that and now I'm a cat influencer. Like, it is, again, so strange to talk about. But it really, it's amazing.
No, I love it. What are some misconceptions people have about the pet influencer space? Because I would assume people don't take it very seriously when they are starting. They'll post like a video of their dog here, a video of their cat here, and just like, what kind of mindset do you have to make your pet famous?
Yeah, so there's a lot to this. First off, so many people essentially create hobby channels, as I
Mhm.
like to call it. So you have your channels where, just as you just described, you post and you post just because you have a cute video here or there. But in reality, there has to be extreme strategy with what you're doing. So the pet niche is a very emotional and relational niche.
Yeah.
So we're not just teaching people things, right? Let's say in other niches, we're not really informational. People come to us to feel good. Like, they want to relate to the cat that they can't have because they're in an apartment, they can't have a cat, or their dog that passed away, or whatever it be. So many people want to relate to pets and relate to stories. So our niche is, again, it's very emotional. So many people think that they can just post cute videos of your pet or, not have strategy with what you're doing
Yeah.
and think it's just going to work, which it doesn't.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it just doesn't work if you're going to, quote, just post videos of your pet online. But
Totally.
yeah.
I mean, with your background not being in marketing or anything social media related, how did you build that strategy? Like, as you mentioned, strategy is so important. You can't just post, like, no matter what business you are. Like, I'm in the podcast space and I even talk to podcasters about this. Like, there's hobby podcasters and then there's
Yes.
podcasters that take it seriously. And same with you. Like, there's people that take it seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes, you're right. When it comes to my experience, I have degrees in kinesiology
Right.
and physical therapy. Like, I had to, over the past, obviously, like, decade practically, I have had to learn everything from
Yeah.
scratch. I
Mhm.
have read countless books. I have gone through like group coaching masterminds. I've taken lots of online courses. I've had to learn, especially, so much from just experimentation and trial and error. I thankfully am at the point to where I don't have to experiment so much
True.
anymore.
Yeah.
But that's why I think, on the side of being the coach, I know so intimately that struggle of not knowing, like, just getting into something new and not knowing. I mean, with being an influencer, and especially like trying to get into the coaching side of things, I mean, you have to have so much experience in. You have to understand basic filming skills. Like, if you're even just going to be a social media influencer, you have to know, you have to have graphic design skills. I mean, if you're going to create your own logos or create any static posts on Instagram or whatever, you have to have some, like, those video editing skills. You have to know so much more than just what the average person knows. And it takes time to practice all that. So yeah, I've unfortunately had to learn everything year over year over year just through learning myself.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, it's a really small niche, right? And I'm wondering, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs who want to go into something more creative, but maybe people don't take it seriously. And I think as women, that's something that we can also struggle with, just people not taking us seriously. And I know that's like in your branding, like you want to empower women to
Mhm.
create financial freedom through creativity. I love that. I'm wondering if you have any stories from early on when like trying to find a coach or trying to find resources where maybe you were doubted in what you were doing, or hopefully not. I don't know.
Yeah. YouTube was my best friend. I was able to learn so much just from, if you're familiar with Think Media, I learned a lot from like their YouTube
Mhm.
channel. Let's see, just trying to think about like all the different people who I looked up to. I personally did not have any coaches.
Okay.
I personally did not have anyone. And even in my everyday life, like I live in a small town. There was no one that one on one I could, in fact, to this day, in my like the city that I live in, I know of like two other people who actually are what I would consider, quote, a successful influencer. Like it is
Mm,
their full time job. And so it is just extremely hard. I feel like I've just been a trailblazer through all
yeah.
this. And everyone, especially everyone I talk to, they're like, what? Like, and especially, oh, something interesting. Like when I talk to brands, they always ask me, where are you located? Because there are always events in like Austin, Texas, Los Angeles, New York. And I'm like, oh, I'm in the middle of the United States, in the middle of nowhere. They're like, oh, like, oh, we can't meet up with you. Or like, oh, you can't come to our events in New York. I'm like, yeah, no, I really can't.
Right. No, that's interesting. And with not having anyone to look up to in that sense, what inspired you to like keep growing? I know you mentioned starting getting views and you were like, "Oh my God, like this is really cool." But what kept you going through all that when maybe you didn't see someone like a goal in the future?
I remember it when I was in physical therapy school. I was talking to a classmate, and I remember telling him, I was like, I already know I never want to be a full-time employee ever.
Mm,
Like
mhm.
because we were doing clinicals where you had to be like 5 days a week, you know, doing these rotations. I was like, this sucks. I hate working these set hours where you don't have a say in things. Like there was a lot that I just in general, not I love the profession. I'm just saying in general, like the healthcare scene. I just got to see a lot of it, and I just wasn't a fan. And so I truly, and knowing that there was a huge amount of debt on my back, I knew I was like, I am going to figure this out. And so honestly, it was just an insane amount of personal motivation.
Mm,
I mean, it really, really was just, I have to find a way to figure this out because I know at the point, so years ago, I saw the potential. I knew that I was like, if I could earn a couple, let's say at the time, a couple $1,000s a month, it's like,
yeah.
I can earn enough to actually, I need to figure out a way to actually make this replace my full time income and be able to show other people how to do it. And so, unfortunately, it wasn't my husband who encouraged me. He just thought it was really cool.
He's
I know.
like, "Wow, our cat has
Yeah.
followers."
Like, let's say, so I talk a lot to my clients about 5-figure brand deals. I'm like,
Sure.
you've made it when you've hit a 5-figure brand deal. And, whenever I tell my husband, he's like, oh, cool, thumbs up. But he was never that motivator because he understood my desire to not work a
Mhm.
typical W-2 job. But even like my family, there was no one other than
Wow.
myself, unfortunately. Now I'm so grateful that I
Yeah.
did. Like I now am at this point where I'm being able to, lead this awesome niche, but it was just me.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, congrats to you for keeping going with all of that, and now you get to inspire other people to go into this creative field. With the financial freedom side, I know you mentioned, like, the intention was to pay off your debt, but for other people who are in the creative fields, like, money is not always constant. I mean,
Yes.
any entrepreneur, my money's not always constant, right? And so it's that whole planning side of things. What was your approach to that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I'm sure you do definitely understand that every month is different.
Yeah.
You can't properly predict. But for me, I think the biggest thing, especially, so even with my coaching, I have things split up in like your beginners and then your people trying to hit that 6-figure business. And in that secondary like coaching side, I tell people what you really want to do at least is get to that point to where your processes are bringing in like the processes that are, whether it's, your daily routines or, the email brands you started, whatever, at least brings you in your bare minimum, like how much it's going to cost to be able to say, pay your rent, your mortgage or whatever and whatnot. So we talk about that. And that amount is going to make it so that you feel more confident with maybe going part-time with doing this. So in general, every single month, my income is totally different, especially on the cat side. So I know obviously so many people are interested more about like, not about the coaching side of this and like income with that, but really with the income of, with their dog or their cat being an influencer. And it is all over the place. It is so hard to predict. But at least, again, if you build your processes to where if you're going to have a certain amount of brand deals every month, or you're going to have a certain amount of user-generated content that you do, at least having that bare minimum, and then anything beyond that is nice, right?
Yeah.
That makes it a little bit more predictable.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And I think that where you're teaching people is very interesting too. And I think that's a great addition to, because someone needed to do it, right? So you doing it. How many people have you had gone through your program so far?
Yeah, there's a couple hundred
That's
who have,
amazing.
yeah.
That's really
And
amazing.
what's interesting is the average demographic. So it's almost all females.
Okay.
I mean, truly like maybe 95% females. But what's interesting is the majority of the individuals that I help are actually women who are between like 40 and 60. So yeah,
Interesting.
so a lot of people,
Wow.
and I think that's mostly because, so obviously the millennial demographic is aging. We're aging, so we're not 20 anymore. But I think millennials and below are very familiar with social media. And I think they are like, nah, I've been on Instagram for forever. I can figure this out. I can watch YouTube videos. But I have learned, and especially this was almost like a light bulb for me back over a year ago, where I was like, I am trying to target towards 20 to 30-year-olds. But when I look at who watches my stuff on YouTube, it's literally women 40 to 60. Mostly just because it makes sense that people who want to learn how to make some extra money with their pet and who don't know how to use social media,
Mhm.
like they're the ones who are trying to seek help. So anyway, that's just a little bit interesting.
That is really interesting. And that comes down to knowing your audience too, right? And adapting to that. So did your content change when that realization happened?
I did. I post, and in fact, a lot of my one-on-one and my group coaching clients come from YouTube.
Mhm.
So I was really intentional about utilizing YouTube because I know since Google owns YouTube, my content will be searchable on Google, by making informational content on YouTube. And through that, yeah,
Smart, yeah.
that's where people come from.
That's really cool. No, that's very smart. And I mean, for any beginner entrepreneurs or anyone who's just starting out, like that, it is important just to like put out content and then figure it out as you go, right? Like you wouldn't have realized that if you were waiting to see like who is the perfect person for this,
Mhm.
right?
Oh, for sure. And even no matter what, like something you just said made me think, I'm sure everyone has always heard of that. Like, oh, you know, wait to, do your research before, or we have like two different side things where people say, oh, do tons of research before you get started. And then you have the other side that said,
Mhm.
Just get started. But with our niche, I always encourage people, don't just rush into it. You need to research the pet niche or, the niche that you're in. Because if you go and watch, because I've watched plenty of YouTube videos of how to make your video explode overnight. I've watched so many different videos just to still understand what coaches out there are telling
Sure.
people. And it is not applicable. Like it's just not as applicable to our niche. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I that makes a lot of sense, and to this point of, you having to put out a lot of videos, having to create a lot of content, content creation is like a full-time job, I'm sure. And then you also have 2 pet accounts. You have your clients, group coaching, your mom. You obviously have to make money from the pet accounts. You need brand deals. Are you doing this alone?
I have a virtual assistant who works full time for me.
Okay.
So kind of yes. So my husband, I joke that he's like my manager, but also he still to this day has no idea what I do. Um, but he likes to say he's like the manager of, he works a full-time job.
Okay.
But yes, I do have a full-time virtual assistant. And I will say jumping to get a virtual assistant was terrifying because if you imagine, I over years have built my processes. I have my ways to edit my videos. I have my systems. And then, yes, I had a child and I realized very quickly that with a baby, you cannot predict your time at all. And so it was overwhelming. And so I did get a virtual assistant and that has changed everything. What's good now is because I have a virtual assistant who's assisting me with emails, with brand outreach for my brand deals,
Mm,
helping with mostly with the brand deal things to again keep making it so that I know I'm going to earn that base level of income that I need.
yeah.
And with all that, she helps with a lot of that technical stuff that
Okay.
just takes time.
Yeah.
And I love that because then I actually can spend more time in the business, learning and growing because I know, the not just the social media, but the digital world is changing so fast. Where we're
Yeah.
at even today to where I began as an influencer years ago is so different. It is so different the way you have to approach your videos and your content and it's crazy. And every
Helps
platform
and
is so
people,
different.
their attention span and all of that. And Instagram started including links on Reels, and that's wild to me. Like,
Yeah.
it's adapting so fast. So you do all the content creation yourself though, right?
So I do all the filming. When it comes to branded sponsored deals, I do create all those videos myself because
Sure.
I need a very consistent quality that I
Yeah.
produce. But for graphics design, a lot of my emails, a lot of that stuff, my virtual assistant gets to do that.
Amazing. Okay, cool. Well, I'm very inspired by everything that you're doing, and I'd love to hear what's next for Pet Influencer Secrets.
Yeah. Well, for the future of Petfluencer Secrets, because I've been able to invest more time into my business in the past few months since getting my virtual assistant last year,
Mm,
I'm really excited for just being able to put out more products for people. So, for example, just about literally last month, I was able to create a YouTube mastery course because I learned that a lot of my clients so I have a couple hundred individuals within like my group coaching. And we have, like, we're talking every single day. Everyone's asking questions here and there. So I'm able to get a lot of feedback of people's pain points and their hesitations, their objections, their questions. And with that, I learned very quickly last year that everyone likes to stay on Instagram. Everyone's comfortable with Instagram. A lot of people are not on TikTok anymore. It's too unpredictable,
mhm.
hard to make money.
Yeah.
But the problem was people were like, I'm not making money. People are making money on YouTube. Like, how does this work? And so I was like, I finally have time. I'm going to make a new course. How great. So I was able to create an in-depth course of for pet influencers, how to step by step from for them, like almost everyone like never opened a YouTube account. I was like, okay, I will create this. And it's been so successful. Actually it's fun. I created a 90-day challenge and I had everyone within my Petfluencer Secrets group coaching program. I said, I'll give you this course for free if you just practice posting one video a week.
Mm,
Anyway, a little tangent there. But yeah, so my biggest hope is just to be able to put out more products that will serve my audience better and better and better to answer all those questions that they have, just because I really felt that I just haven't had time in the past like 2 years. And now
yeah.
I finally have a little bit of time. Um,
Amazing.
isn't Isn't that nice?
Oh my gosh, very
You're
cool.
welcome.
And how many videos are you pushing out daily?
Okay, so trying to think about my content calendar. On one of my cat channels, with my two cats, I have the famous cat and the not famous cat. So Chip the Manx is my famous cat. This one right here.
Very
so
cute.
so Chip, I try to put out 2 reels a day, and typically about 3 days a week I do like a static post or a YouTube community post, something static
Sure.
content. However, and let's see, on my other cat account, about 1 reel a day, and
Okay.
maybe again 2 to 3 static posts a week. However, after everything I've seen, plus talking again to so many creators, I know that you do not have to post that much. The only
Okay.
reason I'm able to put out that amount every single day, and of course, like then I have Petfluencer secrets, right? So then I have content for that. But I know you do not have to post the most. In fact, the minimum that I have experimented with not being negatively impacted in the algorithm
Sure.
in any way has been 3 posts in a week.
Okay.
So again, the only reason I'm able to is because I have a virtual assistant who's
Yeah.
able to take my raw content, edit it, and publish it.
No, that makes sense. Because I'm curious because with AI, people are able to create so many videos and, like, push out so much content, and I know there's an influencer here in Seattle who posts 10 videos a day of just, like, living life, and I don't know, but, like, that
Ugh.
is just it's just so much, but that seems manageable, and that's very inspiring that you still think it's not saturated
Mhm.
because, my dog's Instagram is Hungry Boy Captain. Hungry
I'm
Boy
writing this
Captain
down.
may be the next big dog. But,
I
um,
love it.
very cool, very cool. Okay, well, Ashley, I have loved this conversation. I really admire what you do and the way that you're inspiring other people to do the same. I think that it's just really, really amazing stuff. So, Ashley, my last question I have for you that I ask all of my guests is there's so many courses, there's so many podcast episodes, books, resources that we can download, but nothing happens unless we actually take action on it. So, I'm wondering, what are 3 action steps you want to challenge the audience with that they can do this week?
Okay, so we'll do this in the perspective of if you want to be an influencer in general of any niche. Obviously, my bias is the pet influencer niche, but no matter what, you have to research your specific niche and the target audience first. And I know that that is, a piece of advice that is kind of general, but it is because, for example, in the pet niche, I mentioned earlier that it's a highly relational and emotional niche. You have to be able to say, go into YouTube or TikTok or Instagram and actually study what the other successful creators in that niche have done, because you don't want to just try to reinvent the wheel. Like, obviously, other creators have figured it out. And this isn't necessarily saying go copy them, because that's
Mhm.
never the advice, but you have to do your research. So, again, the people who are consuming, let's say, gardening content or hair, DIY tutorials, like that type of audience is consuming for an entirely different purpose than the pet niche. In the pet niche, it's so many people who just want to feel good. So if you're posting out, informational content, you have to be extremely strategic in how you're doing that. And then I really recommend, I hinted at this just a little bit ago, when it comes to doing your research first, you really need to make sure right off the bat that you appear more professional than just an amateur creator. So I know newbie and amateur creators, like, you don't know any different. But when on your Instagram, and this is actually a piece of advice I give a lot of new creators, new people who want to be influencers, is on your Instagram to not go and follow, say, other new creators. There almost is this, like, and this is just me knowing the pet niche. I don't know if this is everywhere else, but what a lot of people do is, let's say you start your dog Instagram. They will go and follow other small dog Instagram accounts, and they'll make reels that are like, oh, each heart will be, give me a like, and each heart I'll give my dog a treat, and
Mhm.
ways to just try to get subscribers and try to get followers. And what I say is, when you create your account, what you should do is only go and follow the successful creators that you want to eventually look like. And then your home feed is going to be all just flooded with essentially inspirational content instead of it being like all these other newbie amateur
That makes
content, because
sense.
that's what you're going to start thinking is your niche, right? And so, yes, we can always use the explore tab. But if you're scrolling on your homepage, I mean, you can get endless pieces of content that are emulating what you eventually want to look like.
I
And
love
then
that.
the third piece of advice, especially just for in general, anyone who wants to start with this, is to not be afraid to just start.
Mm.
So many people want, and I've heard this a lot, especially from like that 40 to 60 crowd who feel like they need to do all sorts of research. But in one of my coaching courses, I map out the journey of being an influencer in 4 different sections, with the first phase truly just being experimentation. And to get into experimentation phase, you have to first start.
Yeah,
And like
for sure.
they're truly, and especially if you're not familiar with social media and not ever have gotten into this before, you have to experience failure.
Yeah.
And so many people are terrified of failure. I mean, what I remind so many of my students is I have failed so many times, but through that failure, I have gotten to where I'm at now. And they're just lucky that I am able to share my failures before that they experience the failures themselves. But there's one part of being a content creator that I just call the acceleration phase. And that is where, okay, I have failed all these times and I have finally learned from what has been going on with my videos. And I've tried to get 1% better every single post. And then you will start getting patterns of your content getting better and better and better to the point to where you can finally essentially use all the frameworks that you've learned and explode. But what I really encourage people to do is, again, if you're going to get in this and you're going to start posting, you're going to do your learning, watch your YouTube videos, start posting. What matters is that you realistically look at your content every time you post something and you ask yourself, why did this do bad?
Yeah.
You have to look back at your content and you have to ask yourself, what do you think went bad? And
Mhm.
literally, how can I improve it? I've worked with too many people who are just so afraid of failing and so afraid of being like, you know what? I produced some trash content. Like it just didn't work. The algorithm didn't like it. And it's not because you're terrible at all at being an editor. It's really just trying to learn what did I do that the algorithm didn't like and how can I improve it next time? And again, I just tell people every piece of content, you just try to get 1% better. And 6 months from today, 12 months today, you're going to have styles of content that are predictable, that can bring in the views, bring in more followers, and you don't even have to, try to be creative. You don't have to try
Yeah.
to find trends. Like you'll just have your style.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that. I love that. I just met with someone who has a really popular morning show here in Seattle and was asking them about their editing process. And he's like, we have it down to like a science. Like, there's nothing new. We don't do anything new. And that's how it's sustainable. Like, they do
Yes.
a show every single day. He's like, I know exactly the format. Like, it takes me, 10 minutes after. I'm like, that makes so much sense. So, I love it sounds like a constant theme in this episode where it's like, don't reinvent the wheel. Like,
Mm.
truly see what works and stick with it. And I think that's an amazing way to end this episode. So, Ashley, thank you so much for sharing all of your advice, all of this wisdom, the inspiration. Where can people connect with you?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned earlier, most people find me through YouTube. I do have an Instagram, Petfluencer Secrets. If you honestly want to just follow my continual pet journey, because again, I tell people I'm a pet content creator right alongside all these other creators.
Yeah.
So one of my channels is called Chip the Manx. He's the most famous Manx cat in the world. And then his sister, Biscuit the Calico. And then of course the pet content creating coach is Petfluencer Secrets. So you can honestly, if you Google it, you'll see all the channels.
Oh my gosh, what a flex to have the most popular, famous minx in the world. I love
Yeah,
it.
it's pretty
Well, I'll
cool.
put all of those links in the show notes, and I can't wait for people to come and connect with you.
Yeah. Thanks again for this opportunity. I hope it's been really valuable for you guys. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Employee to Boss podcast. If you made it to the end of this episode, I hope that you implement the actionable steps from this week's experts so you can get started with your business today. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the Employee to Boss podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It helps more than you could ever imagine. Remember, a little progress each day leads to big results. We come out with a new episode every Tuesday. To access our show notes, transcripts, and courses, please check out espressopodcastproduction.com.